Picture, if you will, you're a Sonic fan. In 2017, doing your first playthrough of your new favorite video game, Sonic Forces. Naturally, you're using the English dub because you're a frickin' normie, and you encounter this scene.
Oh, you're that Sonic from another dimension, aren't you?
What the? Did they just do that? Did they just say that all of classic Sonic from 1991 to 1997 is in another dimension? But what about all the classic continuity references in past games? What about Sonic Generations, where he was from the past? Did Tails forget about Sonic Generations? How could they do this? How could they make such a heinous retcon? Well, the simple answer is, they didn't. There is no retcon here. This is just a new piece of continuity being revealed to us. Look at the scene again. Not once does Tails say that classic Sonic was always from another dimension. Just that he's from another dimension now. The idea that he was always in another dimension now is just something fans made up in their heads. What the game is actually referring to is a timeline split caused by the events of Generations. This is not classic Sonic, who appeared in games from 1991 to 1997. This is Neo-Classic Sonic, a version of that Sonic who was dragged from the past into Generations and came out with knowledge he would not have otherwise, thus creating another timeline with the same past as the main one up to a certain point. Or did you not notice him using the homing attack without any special shields in this game? This is such an easy thing to figure out, but I still see so many people just not understand what it really means. It's this weird binary thinking that everything labeled classic just has to be Sonic's past, or it breaks the canon. Like, guys, it's okay if you like stuff that isn't strictly the main canon. I like Bionicle Heroes DS, but you don't see me coping hard in order to make it canon. Oh, what's that? Time travel doesn't work like that in the Sonic series? Thus means such a timeline is impossible? Why yes, it doesn't normally work like that. In fact, Sonic CD and series Punching Bag Sonic 06 follow the logic of going back in time and altering the past, leading to the complete erasure of previous timelines. But guess what came back in Generations? Oh, that's right, an erased timeline. 2 of them came back, in fact. So, maybe, just maybe, we can make an exception this time on the account of time doing a belly flop. Oh, but hey, maybe it doesn't even matter. For you see, there are rumblings that this piece of continuity is being retconned. That somehow, someway, Mania happened in the past of the modern timeline. Okay, supposing we could ignore all of this, may I ask just a simple question? What about the Phantom Ruby? In the original Forces prequel comics, Eggman doesn't know what it is when it lands on his doorstep. And throughout the actual game, it takes them 6 freaking months to even get a clue what it even is. So, even if we want to say that Generations pulled some Doctor Who crap and he just kind of forgot the first time around, how is Sonic forgetting about the ultra-powerful gem with a very distinctive sound and effect on people that tossed him from island to island then straight across to the future one time? How does Tails not have some kind of log about it? Why does Knuckles not realize what it is and warn the others? He was leading the Resistance, they just never encounter Infinite? Again, they had 6 months to recognize it, but they didn't, because they never encountered it. Because when Forces was written, the logic was that Mania took place in a split, alternate timeline that also patched a lot of holes from Generations. There would be no way for them to remember something that didn't happen to them. So, if this retcon is indeed happening, you guys not only reopen a ton of old plot holes, but create a bunch of new ones to keep them company. Good job! But to be honest, even without the plot holes, I still would prefer the Neo-Classic timeline remain a thing, simply from a creative perspective. Sure, there's always room for hacky retcon projects that take place in the past, but those will always be railroaded by what comes later. Part of the appeal of franchises like Sonic is that you don't really need to look too deeply to find the connective tissue between most games. Even something like Shadow the Hedgehog, where blatant retcons and bad writing dominate the story, connects well enough to everything that you don't mind it being part of the canon. Forces was also somewhat redeemed by the IDW comics and their use of continuity early on. But of course, a consequence of that type of continuity is that if you contradict all that stuff too much, you're straight up non-canon right out of the starting gate. I mean, have you ever tried to tell a Star Wars story between episodes 3 and 4? Certain characters and meetings just can't happen, and you have to really stretch things if you want to toe the line. And I actually liked Kenobi for the most part. My point is that the neoclassic timeline allows for classic Sonic stories that don't need to worry about these types of things, just as they didn't back in the actual classic era. You can have all of your dumb classic OCs in this continuity all you want. The possibilities are endless to do your own alternate take on what the franchise could have been if taken another direction. You could retell a story we already know, or just make your own. In a rare instance for this franchise, everybody gets what they want. Or they could just retcon and ruin everything. Your call, Sega!